to remind you as well that we have a policy of what they call passive bilingualism here, so please soyez à l'aise de faire vos interventions en français ou en anglais. S'il y a quelqu'un qui ne comprend pas le français, if there's somebody who doesn't understand French, who doesn't speak French, please, like I can sit next to you and do some simultaneous translation. Without further ado, Roger Macdonald is the F.R. Scott Professor of Constitutional and Public Law here at McGill. He's also the president of the Royal Society of Canada, and I have the great pleasure of having him as my doctoral advisor, PhD advisor. Hi. And he's going to present his paper for the rest of the engage with.
Thanks, Suzanne. I've been asked to speak no more than 5 to 7 minutes, and I will try to respect that. I have 4 or 5 introductory points, which I hope will provide some context. Obviously, I'm delighted to meet you and to have this opportunity to exchange, not least because the paper isn't done. And we all know from our scholarship that most of the best ideas we have, we borrow from other people and then make them our own. So if the session works the way I hope it will, I'll be adding another remerciement at the front page. I also want to thank Suzanne, who is frankly every supervisor's dream doctoral student. She's been enthusiastic, she's been critical of me and of my work in the best sense of the word. She's constantly attacked what it is that she's trying to do from different lenses, has kept a rich life of activism going at the same time as pursuing her doctoral studies. And, we're near the end of the road. Probably this fall you'll see submission, and it will be great. And she can reach that wonderful stage of getting on with the rest of her life, which will happen at the University of Ottawa come January. 3 substantive points. What kind of article is this? As you know, there are hundreds of different ways or an infinite number of ways of writing and conceiving an article, but there are a couple of forms which are routine in legal scholarship. And one canonical form is the tribute to somebody else. The Festschrift or the Liber Amicorum type of mélange article, where people who have known and interacted with the person being celebrated are invited to contribute to a volume. And within the Liber Amicorum mode, there are, again, a range of possibilities, but 2 big categories of work. One is this is what this guy did, or this is what this professor did type. And so you have an article, Jean Ghibelli's contribution to contract theory, Jean Ghibelli's contribution to legal pluralism theory, Jean Ghibelli's contribution to property theory, to sociology of law, whatever else, and chapters like this. The other mode, which is becoming increasingly common, especially in North America, where it's endemic for law professors to not follow directions anyway, is for you to write an article which in some way speaks to the relationship that you have had with that person, but is in fact a substantive contribution of your own, which connects with what that person has done, but is not necessarily a review of what that person has done. And it is in this mode that this particular article has been written. The second substantive point that I want to make, which probably know from experience already, is that frequently the best way to read an article is not to read the article, but it's to read the sommaire that appears in the law review, and the first footnote where all of the exculpatory caveats are presented, which gives you a bit of the history and gestation of an article, and then the footnotes. And having read all the footnotes, then you go back and you start reading the text at the first sentence. Because the last thing that an author really wants people to do is have to waste time reading footnotes when you're into the text. So you can satisfy your curiosity by reading the notes first. And increasingly, people who write, and I do not say that I've succeeded here, but increasingly people who write, when the text is done in its final iteration, you read all your footnotes, and if they can't read as a narrative, there's something wrong. Your footnotes themselves should tell a story, which is a slightly different story than the story of the text, but could be read coherently. So that's a part of the craft of writing, is to resist the temptation to simply engage in intellectual exhibitionism through footnotes. And the third point is that there comes a moment in any writing where you simply have to say enough is enough, and the judgment that you make, which varies as your career changes, the judgment you make is when is enough enough? Perfection is not for this world, and yet we will often spend hours and hours and hours polishing and repolishing a text for little substantive gain. And I'm not saying that one should seek to write incomprehensible prose, but there comes a point when you realize that all you're doing is changing verbs into nouns and adverbs into adjectives, and you're not actually rethinking the paper or rethinking its organization, and you simply have to say enough. And this paper is practically at that stage where enough is enough. And subject to your suggestions for improvement, it's going to be submitted 10 days from now, more or less as it is.
Suzanne,
no, you go ahead. Well, I asked a question earlier of Professor Macdonald, and he said I should hold it off. So, may I ask it now?
Sure.
I asked him, he does discuss the genesis of the paper that started in a speech, and I think it does have kind of speechy qualities to it, but I think that's also how you write in general, so I won't make too much of that. But my question is, what comes first? When I look at the footnotes, and I look at things like, well, you saw the seduction of Dr. Lewis and the cricket game, and does that come in afterwards, or is that where the idea starts? How do you decide if you've already got something which was your original speech and kind of grafted on to these experiences that you have? You have quite a lot of references which are to theory and all sorts of things, actually, YouTube and whatnot. When you say enough is enough, I mean, how do you know what should go in and what shouldn't? Are these things that you read years ago and you kept notes, or you kept them in the back of your mind, or did you, when you were writing, think, oh well, I should stick in some reference to Rawls or something here? How does that process work for you?